Good
Let's
morning,
go.
David. Good morning. Thanks for inviting me to have this chat. I know that you've been doing a series of things and you've been working very hard on sort of the business integrated governance approach. Um, and where I come from is wanting to help organizations improve how they develop their strategy and strategy management. So I think one of the key things we have in common is that we're both concerned about improving organizations and the delivery and the effectiveness of their strategy. Um, uh, so, as you know, I've worked with organizations for about 25 years, helping them improve their strategy and the way they do it. And I wrote, about 5 years ago, Strategy Journeys, a guide to effective strategic planning, which got shortlisted for the CMI Management Book of the Year award in 2018. So I'm really concerned about that, about how organizations improve their capabilities for doing it.
Well, David, yes, I come from a slightly different angle. My background is portfolio program and project management. Is in the sharp end of delivering strategy, and one of the biggest issues that I found in my life was that organisations weren't particularly well connected from the objectives and targets they generated in a strategic process to what was being actually done to make those things happen. I'd always look to work on the integration and to enable the strategic wish to actually become an effective command. So your perspective of looking to help organisations with their strategic process and develop and define their strategic intent, and my aspiration to create mechanisms and operating models to make that work. I think that we're an interesting couple to speak to.
It's quite fascinating because I know there's lots of reasons why organizations don't deliver their strategy, including events. Events, dear boy, events, things can change. But one of the key things, when you mentioned sort of portfolio and project management, is quite often there's a separation in organizations between we're doing the change projects and you lot down there are doing the business as usual. And there seems to be quite common as to not necessarily a dissonance, but a separation between those two. Have you found that?
Very much so, and there's quite an industry built up around project portfolio management, where there are processes, systems, training tools that talk about how we prioritize our projects, which is fine, but of course, our businesses are finite resources, funds, and leadership time. And we're not just going to prioritize between projects. We actually need to prioritize and balance between all the workloads that we have in a business. We have to make choices between business as usual and change. So we can't keep them separated because they're interdependent and using the same fundamentals.
Yeah, in fact, I would go as far as to say that any effective strategic plan for an organization has to encompass both. It's not just about the change projects. The business as usual is a core sustaining part of the organization, and whatever's the changes going on, it needs a holistic approach. It needs a total integrated approach to how the organization views strategy. And I guess as well, important in that is the understanding of the people concerned that it's all part of the organization's endeavor. The responsibilities, the accountabilities need to be clear on both sides and how they join together, which I guess is part of the need for an integrated approach.
Indeed. I mean, we're all people. We're all a little bit parochial at times. And if I've got a target for my department to hit a certain level of sales or bring a certain amount of revenue, then that's my focus. And your change project, your strategic initiative to adopt a new business area, a new business, it might interfere with my focus on hitting some numbers. So there may be some natural conflicts between our own individual wishes and having oversight of what all those wishes are, where all that money and effort is deployed is very important to avoid parochialism, I think.
Yeah, and that I think is where the understanding in communication about what the measures are, what the information is absolutely key, so that there is clarity. Change projects, I guess, are not simply, or the project's not simply red, amber, green. Is it on target? It's more about understanding what the outcome is and how that fits into the strategy and what the ultimate measures are, and having an integrated approach. And that can easily, again, back to that. The systems that develop to measure it, the information can often be separate or distinct between project changes and initiatives and the business as usual. So to me, information is very important to get that set up right.
Well, I think a lot of the time projects and portfolios have project management offices, PMOs, and they're very much set up to help the project or program run or operate or report, not necessarily on how to integrate with the business. They're very focused on the project process, not necessarily the strategic delivery. So I think that's an opportunity to grow PMOs into to focus on the value that are coming out of projects and programs and how that works with the business strategy, rather than hitting the milestones and spotting red, amber, green, as you put it.
Yeah, and one of the other things that I've heard is that quite often the people working on the project don't, or they lose track. It's easy to lose track about how this contributes to the organization's strategy. It's the delivery of the project rather than I understand how this is part of the bigger picture. And so that engagement, that communication across the business, across the organization seems vital, that, that integrated approach so that people understand what they're working on and how it fits into the total whole.
Well, indeed, and I think the role of sponsor in a project scenario is really important. A sponsor who keeps that vision as to why and what value is expected, so that they can help the project team remain focused on what the outcome is, and then of course if projected value diminishes, we might need to make a priority call on whether that project's the best use of resource. Or whether it needs more resource if it's going great guns.
Sorry, and that brings into another really important point: is what happens when the strategy needs to change. What happens when something changes outside? There's a challenge. There's an opportunity. Gone are the days when you do a 3 or 5 year strategic plan and you stick to it. Much more so now, within how organizations are focusing on strategies, or need to, is building up that capability to have a dynamic approach, to be able to change and to adjust their strategy and adapt to opportunities and meet challenges that are coming along. I mean, I guess that's hence the term strategy journey, which obviously was the title of the metaphor I used in terms of the book about this, the journey. But it's not just about the strategy. I guess that operating system, that balance of projects, that information systems also needs to be quite dynamic and adjust. And that's where a lot of, that flexibility needs to be built into the organization.
I think it's really, really bizarre that some organizations, they seem to be pushing back on dynamic strategy and seem to like their annual process and are unable or unwilling to countenance that there might be tweaks and little course corrects along the way. I guess if you're going to tweak and course correct, we need to understand where our resources and funds and leadership time are deployed, so we can slow down A or speed up B or add in C, and we can do that in control, and we can do that without issuing instructions that will perhaps destroy 3 or 4 perfectly good projects simply to jump on the next biggest priority. So the information about where you're spending your money, what the value is coming out of each thing, this is vital, so we can make those strategic choices and push the areas that are going to help us based on our new priorities.
I think this is where leadership comes in, because whether it's the senior management team, the executive board, or whatever, it needs to be able to have that real overview and that real grasp and that real understanding about this holistic approach towards delivering the strategy, and the ability to help the organization meet any challenges, meet any opportunities, and make any adjustments, whether they're minor tweaks or whether they're sometimes more radical. If you have a pandemic coming over the hill at you, you might need to change a bit more radically, and you need those capabilities as an organization. And you need that, I guess you need the culture, and you need also the leadership to be able to do that and introduce it. So from my point of view, helping organizations develop those capabilities, and I guess from your point of view, helping them develop the frameworks for that dynamic approach, that, you know, the integrated approach in the front, are both key to helping how effectively they work on and deliver their strategy and adapt to things.
Yeah, I think back to my sort of thought earlier on about parochialism. We're all human, and we all get emotionally connected to the things that we're doing, and our leadership needs to provide that environment in which they can challenge when we're not necessarily doing the most important things, and the information, of course, will help that. I think it's really important that if we're going to look at being systematic and have the facilities to operate, then that culture of accountability is goes along with it.
Yeah, to me, it's all a very joined up approach, an integrated approach, and it's dynamic. It's like when you move one part of the organization, it needs to understand why it's moving and how to adjust. And it's almost like sort of pulling, not the pulling the strings, but adjusting naturally as part of a flow of that and adapting. But that leadership and that understanding of that and the approach is vital. And I guess, you know, where do you start? Where do you start in terms of as an organization? Where do you start knowing or thinking or working out what to do and how to improve and how to take that step?
I think it's very tempting for folks to jump on what they call a quick win and think, oh, I could do this, or I could do that. And in projects and program space, I see that quite a lot. There are some obvious answers people can jump on quickly, but maybe that the right first step is when we're talking about strategy delivery and the integrated governance to make it work, maybe we just need to take a little step back and for the key people that are going to be involved, do we really appreciate current state, how strategy delivery is currently happening, and can we is there consensus that is there a will to actually do something? Without that will to do something, there's hardly any point in trying to devise what the answer is. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I suppose getting that, getting the step back, and the team, the senior management team, whatever that is, and contributions, to be able to really assess holistically where the organization stands, and openly and honestly, and have that dialogue and really assess it, not from a point of view of, I suppose, some part is failing or some part is weak or whatever, but from a point of, we want to improve. We want to be able to do this better. We want to have a much more dynamic approach to how we develop our strategy and build the capabilities to do that. We need to have the ability to have an integrated approach to how we deliver that strategy and to set the organization so that it can do that. And I suppose that first conversation, those early conversations, that openly honest assessment of where the organization is, because every organization is different. Every organization will have its challenges and areas in which it can improve, and you can't do everything at the same time, you know, at once. So working with an organization to map out and to work out what to concentrate on, how to do it, how to improve gradually, I guess that's the joy of learning, and that's the challenge, and that's where you start with that open conversation.
It is, but I guess committing to and engaging in that conversation can be difficult, because we're talking a purpose to strategy. We're talking strategy delivery. This is key and vital stuff, and questioning how an organization's set up to do that. It can be quite pointy and difficult for some people, I guess. So we need some real sensitivity to approach stakeholders that are happy with the status quo, I guess.
And I suppose the key question, as anybody in the senior position in an organisation could ask on this, is: are there ways in which this organisation could improve? And do I want to engage my colleagues? And do we collectively want to try and make a difference and making that improvement?
Indeed. So how do we equip those folks with the knowledge or the approach to do that? Is it something that comes naturally, or is that something that we can talk to people about and almost advise or coach them through?
I think quite often it's useful to have that independent view, that step back view, and that, if you like, facilitation to ask the questions. Ultimately, is that organisation, and they you understand, people understand their organisation much better than anybody outside. But to have a sounding board, have an objective, have a framework for asking those questions to start, and collectively to objectively look at the information about where they are and where to improve. And then that's that journey started, that journey of improvement. And it's great. I mean, to me, it's a privilege. It's an absolute privilege to be invited into an organisation, to listen and to talk to them and to help them work out how to improve. It gives me such a buzz. It's great. And I guess, and once you're on that journey, and the things that you can do to help and to advise, and I guess from your point of view as well, with those frameworks and operating frameworks, I imagine it's very satisfying.
Well, it's I guess taking an organisation from a place where it's got great strategic thinkers and can develop plans and directions as to where to go, but then providing it the facility with which it can make that happen and balance the change, the run, and the value creation aspects to its business. That's difficult for some organizations to organically deliver, but to step back and to make a step change in how people operate, that's really interesting and rewarding stuff.
David, I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's absolutely fascinating. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll get the opportunity to go into an organisation together and listen to them and see what we can do.
That'd be great.
Nice talking to you.
Thanks, David.
Cheers. Bye.
Take care.